So forget prop firms, forget funding, and just think about if you had the skills to just know that you can just go into this market and just take the setup and get that risk reward, get the payout, and you could pass any prop firm challenge at any given time, you would never care about a challenge ever again or a funded account, because you know that you have that within yourself. You are profitable, and you could lose every account, every challenge, and you could just start from scratch, buy a 10k, pass that, buy 100k, pass that, and scale up, because you're that good. But most people don't chase becoming that guy. They chase the results, they chase a challenge or a payout, but they don't chase the skill. While you could just go into the market and just win over time again and again and again. And how do you do that? Just by educating yourself, just by becoming that person. And I know a lot of you people watching are in a position where other things in your life may take time, energy, and you feel frustrated. But that in itself is actually not a bad thing, because that in itself gives you a training ground to become a profitable trader. Because to become a profitable trader, you actually have to do the boring stuff in your life in general. Profitability is not about necessarily hard work alone or trying to be motivated all the time. It's more about systems. It's about having really OCD systems that you follow, journaling everything, your thoughts, your trades, everything, and reading over that again and again and again, 10, 20, 30 times, and just doing that. That's what trading is about. And then perfecting your system, educating yourself, watching other trading mentors that are actually profitable. Like yesterday I watched a mentor who he only had 16 videos on his channel, no lifestyle videos, no vlogs, no psychology, just pure technical analysis, nothing fancy. And I was getting tired, I was getting sleepy because there was no dopamine in his videos, but I knew that his technicals worked, like he was really onto something, and I tried to absorb everything, not trying to trade exactly like him, but to understand especially higher time frames, what he's seeing, and trying to implement that in my mind. Because it all starts with structure from the top and down, from higher time frames and then lower time frames, and everything becomes really simple. Yet most people don't have that structure. They go into the 1 minute time frame, they look for an inversion fair value gap, and they wonder why they get stopped out, and they try again and they get stopped out again, because they have no structure, they have no plan. And in order to succeed in trading, you have to rewire your whole identity. That means you don't applaud yourself for working hard, you applaud yourself for doing really boring tasks. And that is not only in trading, but in your life as well. That's why most people who really succeed in this game actually live a really boring lifestyle. Like, it's not about living a flashy lifestyle, it's not about filling your head with dopamine. It's more about just being really systematic about your approach. And that's actually what makes trading satisfying in itself. When you get to that point where you focus so much on structure, you focus on higher time frames, instead of just jumping in, taking stupid setups, you realize that this is all about structure, about understanding the mechanics behind the market. And once you get to that point, everything becomes really simple, because you have things that you're looking for on the higher time frames, and then you drop down to the lower time frames and you just take an entry and you just exit from a protected high or a low, and you target some opposing liquidity. It's that simple. But let's say you go into NQ in New York session, and a lot of people that are inexperienced and that don't rely on a system, they see a setup everywhere, but they don't understand what's going on higher time frames. And while a more experienced person may look at, okay, I want to get an hourly expansion candle, so he sees that the hourly candle is kind of consolidating and he doesn't do anything, while another person sees a market structure shift or whatever on lower time frames, and he tries to execute that and he gets stopped out and he wonders why. Yet the more experienced person sees that we don't have anything on higher time frames yet, while then he waits and we get that liquidity sweep and we get that hourly candle that takes out the previous hourly candle low and it forms that wick. Then he realizes this could be an expansion candle because he's timing that as well. It's about timing as well. Then he drops down to lower time frames, looks for that change in state of delivery, market structure shift, whatever, and he executes mechanically and flawless. He puts the stop loss below the protected low and he targets some opposing liquidity. He gets 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, whatever he gets, and he's done for the day. He doesn't stress that much because he has confidence in his system. He doesn't think, should I re-enter if I get stopped out? And he knows when to go break even, and he can just put away the charts and focus on something else. That's interesting as well, because if you eventually can't put away the charts, you don't know what you're doing. You just need to set some alerts and just put away the charts and don't care about whatever happens the next 30 minutes or 1 hour. Then you can go back and look at it, review your trade and see if you should go break even, or if it's the end of the day, if you should close the trade. But the less interference you're having with the trade, the better it is, because anything can happen in the trade, especially in the beginning. But that's why a lot of people get so frustrated. It feels so frustrating because at the slightest pullback, they try to interfere, they get panic, and that in itself is because they don't trust their system, they don't trust their strategy, and that's why they start thinking maybe I shouldn't be in this trade, because they never should have been in that trade in the beginning. So that makes everything so much simpler. Please, whatever you do, if you feel like you're not profitable and you feel like you're going through this flat line, please know that the only thing you should be focusing on is journaling everything and continuing to educate yourself. Always educate yourself. The better you get at this, the more you need to educate yourself, and you should spend all of your time and energy on reviewing trading content, technical analysis, backtesting. And people think trading psychology is important. It obviously is, but don't neglect the technicals, because no one likes to lose again and again and again and never see progress and win. Eventually your trading psychology is going to be doomed if you never see any progress, because your mind is being like, this isn't working, we're not achieving anything, we're not making progress, so this obviously doesn't work. And that's on you and your technical skills. That's why you always need to educate yourself. I'm dropping videos on my channel with technical analysis. I already have videos on my channel with technical analysis, and I try to help people, especially understanding how to read the market in a simple yet effective way. And the thing is, if it sounds too flashy, it doesn't work. If it's more simple, it works. It's boring because it works. It's not flashy, but it works again and again and again. And it's not only about the entry on the lower time frames, because that's something you have to figure out by yourself based on what the market is doing that particular day. But it's more about having that understanding of the structure on higher time frames. That is what I really try to teach people, because if you have that, then trading becomes so much more effortless, because everyone can enter on lower time frames. That's not the difficult part. Anyone watching this can do that. It's about understanding what's happening on higher time frames and seeing the bigger picture, because that's how smart money trades. They trade on the higher time frames, and the algos are trading on the lower time frames. So if you don't know, if you're on the wrong side of the market on higher time frames, it doesn't matter what you're doing on the lower time frames. Lower time frames are just noise. That's why you need to understand higher time frames and set your stop loss at the protected high or at the protected low, so that no matter what happens on the lower time frames, you don't care, because you know that you're protected and you're on the right side on higher time frames. That's simply it. Please don't stress about lower time frames, because that in itself is chaos. So just understand what I'm trying to tell you, and trading will become so much easier for you. Just set and forget and don't care that much about lower time frames. That's it for today, guys. I really wish you good luck, and let's finish the week strong.